Oleksandr Usyk couldn't hide his surprise when he saw Jake Paul's bulked-up physique ahead of the Anthony Joshua fight. And that reaction turned heads. Most fans expected talk of hype and theatrics. But Usyk noticed something different. Size, structure, and a level of physical commitment that challenged assumptions. While critics dismiss Paul as a novelty, seasoned fighters view preparation as truth. This contrast raises a bigger question. Has Jake Paul crossed from spectacle into something more dangerous? Usyk's reaction hints at details cameras don't capture and expectations that may be outdated. If elite champions are paying attention, maybe this fight isn't as predictable as everyone thinks. People are genuinely losing their minds over this fight. And honestly, you can't blame them. You've got three grown men sitting around seriously debating a YouTuber fighting an Olympic gold medalist, a two-time world champion, and one of the most dangerous heavyweight punchers of this era. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't a meme anymore. This isn't a joke tweet. This is a real conversation happening in boxing circles. And it feels surreal. Jake Paul has done what almost no influencer has ever managed to do. He's forced the entire boxing world to stop, stare, and argue about him. But this time, it's different. Because now the conversation isn't just about whether Jake Paul can box. It's about how fast he changed, how confident he sounds, and how suddenly massive he looks standing next to real heavyweights. And that's where the whispers start. When insiders, fighters, and trainers begin openly questioning how someone jumps weight classes this quickly, people notice. When boxing veterans start casually throwing around phrases like random testing and banned substances, fans notice even more. And when respected names in the sport start saying things like, "Is Jake Paul natural?" that's when the narrative really explodes. Some trainers and fighters have hinted that Jake's physical transformation looks extreme. Not impossible, but unusual. The kind of change that usually takes years. Not a short camp. People close to boxing gyms talk. Fighters talk. Sparring partners talk. And while no one is presenting hard proof, the confidence with which some insiders speak raises eyebrows. The claim isn't that Jake Paul can't train hard. It's that the speed of the transformation doesn't match the normal path fighters take. And here's the uncomfortable part. The more Jake talks, the more confident he sounds. The more exaggerated his swagger becomes. The more critics say it feels like overcompensation. Not confidence built on deep amateur pedigree or championship rounds, but confidence built on size, optics, and intimidation. That's why so many boxing people immediately bring up Anthony Joshua. Because Anthony Joshua represents the opposite of hype. Olympic gold medalist. Decades in the sport. Tested under every anti-doping system imaginable. A man whose resume doesn't need explaining. When Joshua speaks about drug testing, it isn't trash talk. It's reality. In professional boxing, if you get caught using performance-enhancing drugs, you don't get memes. You get banned. Joshua's comments are blunt. If you're on drugs, you're banned. Simple as that. No viral clips. No excuses. And when that kind of statement is dropped into a conversation already filled with suspicion, fans connect the dots whether anyone wants them to or not. Promoters like Eddie Hearn have added fuel to the fire by discussing how substances are regulated, how tests work, and how close to a fight someone can technically fail. When promoters start talking about testing windows, banned lists, and the WADA code, it tells you the chatter has reached a serious level. This isn't Twitter conspiracy anymore. This is boxing business talk. Other fighters aren't holding back either. David Benavidez has openly acknowledged that people in the sport believe Jake Paul might be using PEDs, not as a joke, as an observation. When elite fighters who climb the ranks naturally say a physique looks suspicious, fans listen, because real boxers know how long it takes to build a fight-ready body. Johnny Nelson put it even more plainly. Drugs might make you stronger. They might make you fitter, but they don't make you a better fighter. They don't give you timing. They don't give you ring IQ. They don't give you instincts. And that's the part that matters when you're standing across from a real heavyweight who's knocked out world-class opponents. That's why so many people laugh when they hear Jake Paul talking like this fight is competitive. Not because Jake hasn't improved. He clearly has. But because improvement against former MMA fighters and aging boxers is not the same as surviving an Olympic-level heavyweight with one-punch knockout power. Tyson Fury didn't even try to be polite about it. He said Anthony Joshua could show up on his worst night ever and still beat Jake Paul. Broken ribs, broken hand, sick with the flu, shoes on the wrong feet, and still win. It sounds ridiculous, but that exaggeration is meant to underline just how wide the gap is between elite heavyweight boxing and crossover entertainment fights. Joe Rogan has echoed the same concern, but from a more dangerous angle. He's not talking about image. He's talking about damage. Joshua is not just a big man. He's a proven finisher. When he lands clean, people don't get up. And Rogan's point is simple. This isn't sparring. This isn't content. This is a man who has ended fights violently against trained heavyweights. And that's what makes the steroid speculation feel almost irrelevant to some people. Even if Jake Paul were bigger, stronger, and fitter than ever, it still wouldn't prepare him for the timing, accuracy, and composure of someone like Joshua. Size alone doesn't save you when a real heavyweight punch lands. Joseph Parker summed it up perfectly. Power ends fights. If Joshua lands on you, you're done. That's it. No redemption arc. No Instagram caption afterward. Just lights out. Interestingly, Anthony Joshua himself hasn't leaned into the drama. He isn't attacking Jake personally. He isn't accusing him of anything. He's doing something far scarier. He's taking him seriously. Joshua has said he's preparing for the best version of Jake Paul possible. No dismissing. No laughing. No underestimating. That mindset alone shows how professional the gap really is. Joshua isn't chasing hype. He's hung up phones. He's ignored other opportunities. His camp is locked in. December is circled. And that calm focus stands in sharp contrast to Jake Paul's loud confidence and social media-driven bravado. At the end of the day, that's what this fight represents. Not just a boxer versus a YouTuber, but reality versus spectacle. Earned skill versus accelerated fame. Years of grinding amateurs and world title pressure versus viral confidence and fast-track opportunities. If Anthony Joshua wins the way most expect, it reinforces what boxing purists have been saying all along. That elite skill, discipline, and experience still matter. That Olympic champions don't lose to influencers, no matter how big their platform or physique looks. But if Jake Paul somehow pulls this off, if he shocks the world, then everything changes. It becomes one of the biggest upsets combat sports has ever seen. And people will argue forever whether it was the ultimate crossover moment or the beginning of something boxing never wanted. Right now, though, the overwhelming belief is clear. Fans aren't tuning in because they think Jake Paul will win. They're tuning in because they want to see what happens when social media confidence collides with real heavyweight power. So the question isn't whether this fight is entertaining. It absolutely is. The question is simple. Do you believe hype can survive reality? Or are you backing Anthony Joshua to make a statement? Let me know.